Sometimes the wait is so long because the people that we would love to be cheering us on aren't ready to be cheerleaders. So you may be waiting for or even longing for a certain kind of community, and your community may be waiting for you to become the person they're supposed to encamp about and uplift, or they may be still developing. So imagine the person that mistreated you yesterday being the person extending you grace today because they don't recognize that you're the same person. Or you graciously accepting the kindness because you don't recognize today's hero as yesterday's villain. Passion public service announcement. Passionate. Let me tell you something. So what is this Passion PSA podcast? Who am I? Well, they call me Passion, short for passion no last necessary. Why is there no last name necessary? Because the first name says it all. I am Passion and all that embodies. What do I do here? I give you the life coaching that you know you need, but don't enroll yourself in. When did I start? Actually, 2017. I'd leave a PSA on my Instagram regarding something I'd observed, and now we've evolved to this. Why do I do it? Why not? If even one person is able to take away one thing that changes their life, someone else's life, or changes the world for the better, then I've done what I was charged to do. So come on in, sit and listen for a while. There's something here for everyone at the Passion PSA Podcast. Greetings and salutations, my beloved passionates, newcomers, visitors, and guests. Welcome to another episode of the Passion PSA Podcast, where I, passion no last necessary, your get you right guru, issue a weekly public service announcement about whatever I have observed or was on my mind. This is a for your consideration zone where the objective is to offer you a perspective you may not have previously considered to A, expand your thinking, and B, aid you in becoming a better version of yourself, for yourself, and for others. This is a safe space, but not necessarily a delicate one. I'll never rob you of your right to feel what you feel, same way I won't sugarcoat the truth to make it more palatable. The goal is to get you to higher, more expanded thinking so you can operate as your highest and best self. If you are new here, affirmations are our first order of business before we get into it, so that we intentionally raise the vibration and ensure that whatever I say and how it could potentially make you feel, that we've started on the highest possible vibration and the same frequency. So if you are ready, go ahead and take a deep breath. You are always welcome to repeat after me or to use this time to state your own affirmations. I am heard. I am seen. I am understood. My needs are met. The timing is perfect. I am divinely aligned. Everything is working for my good. Everything is working in my favor. I am where I am supposed to be. I am safe here. I am well. It is well. All is well, and well is all. Ashe, ashe, ashe. So passionates, first things first, my personal anniversary was wonderful. I always share with y'all the ups and downs of this DIY, DIBY, do it by yourself journey, right? I'm fairly certain y'all know I was burnt out. The first quarter of this year was rigorous. And for all that I did accomplish, unfortunately, I didn't hit all my benchmarks. So while I'm disappointed, I'm not distraught. However, in order to keep pushing to meet the yet unmet benchmarks as well as the new benchmarks, I needed some downtime just to recharge, regroup, relax, put my concerns down. And that's exactly what I did, kind of. So I got missing for a few days, and while I was out of reach, I was still working. I was in business meetings and roundtables, even though they weren't always at tables, but that's another topic for another time. And just like when I went to Greece, I even shot an episode while I was gone. But I felt great and grateful, and I needed that. And as I was preparing for this week's episode, it made me realize how that experience was the perfect segue from last week's episode, where we talked about how we often don't realize we're living in answered prayers because we don't like the answers to what we're discussing this week. I've had a lot of raggedy birthdays. I have cried more than my fair share of tears. Last year, I think I told y'all that I struggled to answer the phone because I couldn't meet or match the joy of the people calling to celebrate me and wish me well. I've always wanted to go on like a fire getaway for my birthday. I've come close. I've traveled right after or within the vicinity of, but usually if anything is done, it's a last minute scramble that's barely being held together by the seams. This year, I was living in answered prayers. I traveled the day before, so if there were any mishaps, they wouldn't impact my day. I woke up where I wanted to be, with people I wanted to be with, and we had a blast. Vacation behavior was in full effect, and we still managed to network and get work done. So how does that bring us into this week? Okay, one day I'm on the phone with my sis, and we're expressing gratitude for the people that are currently in our lives. Of late, she's had the great fortune to meet and be surrounded by people who are determined to see her win. There's nothing in it for them. They're not asking for percentages. They're not charging her. They're either giving her the information or they're giving her the actual tools to get in position and win. Now, as long as she and I have been in a relationship, this has been the type of time she's on. She's very altruistic in spirit. She leads with service. And her motivation is just to help people. Like, she may or may not get a thank you out of it, and it's of no importance to her. The energy is very much, I give you the game or the foundation, you go be a success or failure, but what you won't say is that you never had the help. Very much like myself, right? So we're talking about the privilege it is to be surrounded by people like this. And she says, all my life, this is all I ever wanted, to have people around me that were in my corner. Now, a lot of us can relate to being the giver, and it seems like there are equally as many who can say they've been taken for granted or they've been taken advantage of. And for the latter group, the experience has made them bitter and even jaded. To only ever want encouragers and helpers around you, but to keep getting complainers and takers is extremely discouraging. It's extremely disheartening. It can and often does lead you to question, why me? Like, what did I do so wrong and so bad that I keep ending up with these people? And then if you understand attraction, you start deep diving into what it is about you that's attracting these kinds of people. And worse, when it's family, because when it's people you meet in strays from the street, it may be, definitely, you. But when you're born into this group, it's like, are you kidding me? This can't be life, right? So after the conversation, I was really ruminating on it because it brought up a memory for me from a conversation I'd had with someone we'll call person of interest several years ago. Our conversation was good. The energy was good. We were at the door of a really nice friendship. Person says, why couldn't I have met you X amount of years ago? And I answered honestly and basically told person I wasn't that version of me at that time. Had we met sooner, there was a possibility that either one of us wouldn't have had the same appeal. When sis and I were talking and she said that the community around her now is the community she'd been waiting for her whole life, that's exactly what I told her. They may have had to become their current selves. Often, we underestimate how much change has to take place within us to be the person to even socially interact with others. We've talked about that several times, but more in the professional context. There's a version of you who would never appeal to person so-and-so. That's not limited to intimate relationships. There are some people that I love dearly that I would never hire. And there are some people who feel the same way about me. So the same way there's someone that is in your never category right now, if you met them 5 years from today, they may not be different, but you may be. It's like that ex that should have been slapped in the face with a brick when you were with them, but now they're a saint and deserve the highest partner and parent honors. Many, and dare I say most of us, have thought about the version where they block gets knocked right off their shoulders. We're all hyper aware of who's wronged us. But what about that ex that now that we're different, now that we've grown, now that we're looking through different eyes and hearing with different ears, we realize they may have had their issues, but we were the ones who weren't ready to be in their lives. And that's not to say they were great then. Don't get that confused. But with time and lived experience, often we develop more patience or compassion. There's somebody right now who's been a passionate for years. And as a result, they respond instead of reacting. They've done some listening and some implementing. And instead of being quick to throw everyone in the garbage, they've learned to be a little less hasty and haughty with their disengagement and disconnection. Prior to tapping in, though, they were running around town like Edward Scissorhands, just cutting up and cutting off everything and everyone. Sometimes the wait is so long because the people that we would love to be cheering us on aren't ready to be cheerleaders. Had Sis and I met at a different point, I don't know what version of her I would have met, but I know I wasn't this exact version of me as recently as 2019. My overall personality was the same, but there are tiers, right? Specific areas that were totally different. So if my personality was my biggest draw when we met, then it's very possible we would still be close. But if it was my business acumen, it's very probable I wouldn't have been on her radar. It's possible that personality-wise, I may not have been receptive to her because there are things in my personality that have been refined and fine-tuned for us to now be a good fit. So now these other people, some of them may have only been able to want to see her win, but they may not have been in a position to help her win. And that's huge. Some people only want to see you win because it benefits them in some way if you do, like inspiration and motivation. Like the reality of you winning increases the possibility for them, right? But others want to see you win because they've watched you work and they feel like you absolutely deserve it. And the same applies for the person that's financially operating in altruism. There have been people who have invested in something for me strictly because they believed in what I was doing. They said, people need to hear what you have to say and you deserve to go further. There have been those who have invested in me because they felt like, I'm getting value out of what you're doing. I'm getting value out of what you're offering. And if you stop, I can't get what I need. So I'm going to make sure you have the necessary tools to keep going. And some of those same benefactors, 5 years ago, they were watching, they were rooting for me. And sometimes I knew and sometimes I didn't. But either way, they weren't then in a position to support me the way they do or have. And even if they were monetarily, they may not have been emotionally, mentally, or spiritually. Each day, every day, each of us is evolving into a someone or the someone we need to be for ourselves and that someone else needs us to be for them, whether that's to aid their evolution, to propel them forward, or just to shore them up. So you may be waiting for or even longing for a certain kind of community, and your community may be waiting for you to become the person they're supposed to encamp about and uplift, or they may be still developing. And that process can be long and arduous, especially when we kiss so many frogs on the way to the prince. We walk into so many glass doors and walls thinking we're walking a clear path. There are so many tolls to pay crossing these bridges into new territory and so many trolls under those bridges. The wild thing is, some of those very trolls will evolve into key members of our community. I was driving through Queens one night and it was awful. Right? They were closing lanes on every highway and on the service roads. So it's not even like you could get off and maneuver. It was a fight to get across a lot. The GPS wasn't helping because it was taking her a minute to figure out why I wasn't going where she wanted me to. So she was trying to reroute me back to the route that she thought was best. But all those roads were blocked. Now, I love to drive. I really do. I don't love the way y'all drive, though. Okay? Because y'all be out here failing real bad. So I argue with y'all from in my car because I want you to do better or fail somewhere else. Anyway, point is, while I was trying to navigate this nightmare, there was a yellow cab driver that let me through, and I really appreciated that. But I thought to myself, that could very well be the same yellow cab driver that just the day before tried to freeze me to death on the ride and then wouldn't help me get my bags out. On Thursday, he wasn't in the space to support me the way I needed. But on Friday, he was. And you may be saying, Passion, I'm sure that wasn't the same driver. And you might be right. I'm sure I said it could have been. I'm also sure that a day can make all the difference in the world. So imagine the person that mistreated you yesterday being the person extending you grace today because they don't recognize that you're the same person. Or you graciously accepting the kindness because you don't recognize today's hero as yesterday's villain. A lot of people are doing the work. A lot aren't. There are some that are doing that self-work to where they're about to develop a whole other level of psychosis, just trying to be the person and not just the representative. There are some that are doing the self-work the same way they do everything else, with no sense of urgency until it's too late. And while they may be master procrastinators and their work may be subpar, it still has to count. So here's what I want you to take away from this. Passion point number 1. The wait may seem eternal, but not now is not ever. How Habakkuk say, though it tarry, wait for it will surely come. There are some things that I have been waiting for, beloveds, and they have been tarrying, okay, for decades. But I'm not going to give up believing for those things, and I encourage you to stand in your faith the same way. Passion point number 2. While you may want the support at this point in the juncture, you may not be fully prepared to receive the support you desire. Look at yourself right now. Now reflect back to the person you were 5 years ago. Are they the same? If yes, that might be why the caliber of people you're attracting hasn't changed either. Now, if you're satisfied with who's currently around, keep doing what you're doing. But if you're looking for a different type of crowd, going to different environments is only part of it. The other part is the internal change. Passion point number 3. Some of the people you've been waiting for have been in refinement. Only now are they the type of people that you need and can appreciate. You had to become this version of you, and they had to evolve into this version of them. Passion point number 4. Some of the people you've been looking for have always been there. You just couldn't see them. Now, maybe that was because you were jaded. Maybe it was because you were so consumed by their flaws. You couldn't see their greater attributes. And maybe it was because you couldn't see past your own flaws, so you couldn't understand how they could. Passion point number 5, and this is always the toughest to accept. Some of the people you've waited this long for, they won't be here long. They may transition back to the ethers. They may relocate to another state and you lose touch. They may evolve and outgrow you, or vice versa. They may devolve while you continue to evolve. And since backwards isn't a direction on your personal compass, you got to leave them behind. And that's hard. And sometimes it's hurtful. But we know it's all part of it. I know that some of the things that we discuss can be very heavy and they need room to breathe, and you need a minute to digest it. Okay, that's why I decided to do this in 2 parts. As the What One Woman Does brand continues to grow, I'm grateful, like sis, to be supported in the way I want to be and be surrounded by people who are appreciative of what I have to offer. So cheers to you, passionates, for evolving to this version of self where you and I can share space weekly and become better for it. Have you yet found your tribe? Have you had to remove some people from your tribe? Are you currently being supported in the way you want to be? Is it you or is it everybody else? Now, I've been talking to you for a little over 15 minutes, right? Talk back to me. Say something in the comments section, please. Don't just talk to your phone screen and your TV screen. Thank you. Questions, comments, concerns, commendations, drop them below. Drop me some megaphones if you got some value from this episode. If you have listener letters, send them to my brilliant friend passion@gmail.com. Hit the thumbs up, click the bell, share the episode with someone you're glad is in your tribe, because that helps me help others help themselves. I shared this point of view with you because I'm glad you're in my tribe. If you would like to be a financial contributor, donations can be made using Linktree, PayPal, Podbean, or Zelle. Every little bit helps. It all goes back into the pod. That's it. That's all your Get You Right Guru is. Signing off. Passionates, y'all go forth. Be great. Be filled with bliss. Be armed and empowered with knowledge. If your community feels lacking, just remember somebody is still becoming, and that somebody might be you. Keep growing. In all things, be passionate. See you later.